I'm going to try to turn off transcription. I believe it's recording. Okay. Thank you very much to everyone. We have started today's recording. Welcome to the U.S. Department of Commerce and Indiana District Export Council Lunch and Learn series. We are excited for you to be here today. We have around 76 people signed up. This program will be discussing grants and programs for U.S. and Indiana exporters. So we're excited for you to join us today. Please be respectful of everyone else, and if you're not speaking, please mute your mic. That would be fantastic. And again, my name is Mark Cooper. I'm the director of the U.S. Department of Commerce. In just a moment, I'm going to turn the microphone over to the chair of the Indiana District Export Council, Mr. Andrew Reinke, who will talk about the program today and give us some guidelines. First of all, I am the director of the U.S. Department of Commerce office in Indiana. We are the frontline trade promotion organization and agency of the U.S. government. Our job is to help U.S. and Indiana companies export. And our hope today, partnering with the Indiana District Export Council, is that we can educate the public on exporting topics that matter to you, the consumer and the exporter. So we hope that this program today will allow you and give you tools to make you more successful in the export arena. So I'm going to, without any further delay, we have a lot of speakers on the dais today. I turn this over to the chair of the Indiana District Export Council, Mr. Andrew Reinke. Andrew.
Thank you, Mark, and thank you always for your partnership and guidance, and your team at the U.S. Department of Commerce for partnering with the U.S. and the Indiana District Export Council. So just a little bit about us. I recognize many on the attendees today, but there's a lot of companies I don't know. So the Indiana DEC is a not-for-profit organization operating under the auspices of the U.S. Department of Commerce to promote and support exporting as a way to strengthen Indiana companies, grow the state's economy, and create jobs. We offer one-on-one export counseling, workshops, and webinars, and serve as a focal point of export information along with Mark's office and resources for companies across the state of Indiana. Each state in the union has at least one district export council. Joining us today are a few other Indiana DEC members, Christine Everett, IU Cyber, Dr. Toby Malachi Group Worldwide, Raju Chintala, Indiana India Business Council, and Joe McMurray, Purdue MEP. Thank you as always to our collaborative partners, USDOC, SBA, Exim Bank, IU Cyber, Indiana SBDC, and the Indy Chamber. Actually, only one of those, the Indy Chamber, all of them are actually on today's program. So again, thank you for your partnership. This is our first Export Lunch and Learn webinar 2023. These webinars are offered every other month, beginning in January through November. Just a fun fact, just to set the tone for today and for the new year. The U.S. is the most competitive nation by far on earth of the major economic powers, emerging and developed. Countries including China, Germany, Japan, UK, Canada, Brazil, all according to the World Economic Forum in Geneva. Yet exports account for just 11.5% of U.S. GDP. And our GDP stands about 23 trillion. We export about 2.6 trillion. The other major powers all rank lower, yet have 20, 30, 40, even 50% of their GDP coming from exports. Can you imagine the size of the US GDP if we were just to reach 20%? We would grow the US economy by $2.1 trillion, the size of the UK's economy, reaching 4.6 trillion in exports, more than the size of the entire German economy, just for reaching 20%. That would be like growing Indiana's exports close to $80 billion. That's our objective. That's what we're to do. I don't know we'll get that done today or in 2023, but we are here today to start that process. Well, it's January, it's a new year. What better way to begin the new year than to invite all the trade-related state, federal, and educational resources in Indiana together to discuss their programs that can help our companies grow exports, and also to review the new grant and policy guidelines of the Indiana State Trade and Export Promotion Grant Program, or INSTEP, that supports many of those export development services you'll hear about today. We start off with Roger Howard, Senior Manager of Global Trade at the Indiana Economic Development Corporation. Roger does a great job and manages INSTEP, which supports Indiana companies on reimbursement for export development activities. Roger, how many years have you been doing this?
So I joined the IEDC in 2019, and we launched the program INSTEP in 2020. So I guess almost going on 3 years here. So
yeah, well, you do a great job, and it's a huge asset for the state. Roger, and to all the speakers, if you don't mind, when you're done speaking, if you could put your contact information in the chat so everybody can know how to contact you going forward. So with that, Roger, the floor is yours.
Great. Thank you, Andrew. And let me share my screen right here. I have just a few slides when talking about the INSTEP grant program. So everyone should be able to see that now. I'll put it in full screen mode. But my name is Roger Howard, and I am the Senior Manager for Global Trade at the Indiana Economic Development Corporation. And in my role, I oversee the INSTEP grant program, so the Indiana State Trade and Export Promotion Program, which is a federal state-funded program supported through the USSBA. The program has been in existence for a fairly short time, given it has a longer shelf life throughout the federal government so far. Probably launched in, I think, 2011. But the state, we launched in 2020, and it's been a great success, even though we've encountered COVID along the way. But we recently relaunched the program with new federal state funds on October 1st, 2022. And it is a 2-year grant, like I said, in coordination with the U.S. Small Business Administration. And we have $705,000 for small businesses to take course over the next 2 years. And really the whole purpose of the INSTEP grant program is to support small businesses developing and expanding export opportunities in new markets and existing markets around the world. And by doing that, as Andrew alluded to earlier, we offer reimbursements for costs associated with export-related activities. So things such as international trade shows, trade missions, website globalization, translation services, so on and so forth. We'll get into that. We really offer nearly everything under the sun. And some of the things in order to be eligible for the program, there's not a ton, but there are some things a small business needs to be mindful of when applying and having interest in the program. One is that you have to be in operation for 1 calendar year. So we measure that by being a registered business in the state of Indiana with the Secretary of State's office. And additionally, your business must be kind of self-categorized as a new to exporting firm or a firm that's expanding in a market. So say you've been exporting to Germany for 20 years, that's completely fine. Say you're wanting to export to Germany for the first time, we'll work with you either way. Additionally, you need to be a client of the Indiana Small Business Development Center, ISBDC. And I'll let my colleague Gabby talk more about this in a bit. But in my role, I don't advise businesses. However, the ISBDC does. And there's a lot of great export resources along with all the other colleagues on this call that they can offer, but that I myself don't. So this is part of that, where we want to make sure businesses are in a pipeline and getting success, getting the programs support they need for continued assistance. Another item is you must be a small business to take part in the INSTEP grant program. The SBA, they have a great resource that kind of categorizes size standards. So this is based off, a lot of people ask me, as employees small? What does that look like? And the question is, it's based specifically on your business. So you'll use your NAICS code, your North American Industry Classification Code, to find that out. So it could be based on annual revenue, employees, and we can help you identify that as needed. Additionally, let me move this out of the way so you can see that. The goods or services your business produce have to be composed of at least 51% U.S. made content. So sometimes that it can be a little bit hard to measure, but we're always willing to help a business out to understand that and make sure we can figure that out together. Okay. Great. So as I alluded to earlier, there's several activities that are allowed. Uh-oh. Can you guys see my screen or did it go away? Okay, there we go. So, this is a small sampling of what is offered, and I always tell businesses that, if there's something you don't see on this list, we can work together to kind of understand what that is. But very quickly, just kind of running through some of these, the InStep grant program supports the participation in international trade shows and domestic trade shows. Domestic, there's a bit of a caveat there because we need to understand that there's an international buyer-seller presence there, but we're happy to support that if you're looking to participate in a trade show within the United States. We can also support with international trade missions, website globalization, and search engine optimization. U.S. services offered through the U.S. federal government. So U.S. Commercial Services offers a whole host of activities that I'll let Mark Cooper touch on. Export training services, export research, subscription tools. Again, Ex-Im Bank is another service, and I'll let Ursula talk more about that. And then product compliance and testing or certification. So that's entry into other markets. If you have a specific, whether it's agricultural or more of a technology piece, sometimes different markets have certain things you need to do to show that product can be safe for their consumers. And then the translation services that can be for digital or print materials. It's important to note that a business the InStep grant program, it is reimbursement, so businesses must pay for everything upfront themselves in advance, and then the activity must be rendered complete as well. So that both of those things are needed in order for us to release a reimbursement. And the reimbursement itself will cover up to 80% of a small business's export costs, not to exceed $15,000 per calendar year. So that's important to note. And that is a change in the program. So when we launched in 2020, we reimbursed $12,500 per calendar year. So we've increased that a bit, and that's probably the biggest change to the program. We've worked a lot with USSBA to make sure more services are included, and consider eligible. So we're always working to improve the program and always looking forward to working with businesses to understand how we can meet their needs. As this nice guy is pointing out on this slide, some things that you can do if you're interested in applying and wanting to kind of understand what the InStep grant program can do for you is first to confirm your size standards. Make sure that your business is considered small. Like I said, we can help with that here at the IEDC. And if you're connected to another resource, I'm sure they can help you as well. And I'll put my email in there and we can have that discussion. Additionally, registering to be a client with the Indiana Small Business Development Center. The process is free, and I don't want to steal Gabby's thunder, so I'll let her cover that. But that's a great resource, and it's part of our requirement, first of all, but it will help businesses, and that's part of the reason we loop that in there. And then we have an online application. Very simple. It's kind of 4 parts where we want to know more about your business, some of your export history, and then we would like to know, of course, what activity you're looking to pursue through the program. And then there's some other documents that we need filled out, but it's fairly easy to access and it's online. And of course, I'm happy to help guide businesses through that and work with you as you go through that process. I know we're going to save questions until the end, but if you want to please put any questions in the chat box, I'll be happy to review them and we'll touch on those at the end. And additionally, my contact information listed here, my email and phone number. I'll list that in the chat as well, because I know we have some other people who will be presenting and putting on their slides. So with that said, I look forward to working with your business. I'm sure there's some businesses I've worked with before on the presentation today. And let's, as Andrew said, there's a lot of opportunity to grow exports in the state of Indiana, and there's no reason we shouldn't capitalize. And obviously, I'm not the small business owner. I can't do it alone, but I want to make sure we can all be supportive of you and your endeavors moving forward. So with that, I will stop sharing my screen, and I'll hand it over to my colleague, Mark Cooper with the U.S. Department of Commerce in Indiana.
Thank you, Roger. That's fantastic information and fantastic tools for our Indiana exporters. I think this is really critical that we have brought such a program to Indiana, and that it can help you take some of the sting out of the export expansion. So we are delighted to be a part of that program as well. It's been, as Roger said, part of the Indiana landscape for a short time, but we are really excited that to be a part of that. Now I'm going to try to show you my slideshow. And if someone can tell me if you see it. Is it visible? Someone give me a heads up.
Yes, sir.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Well, I think the overarching message of today's webinar is that exports do matter. We know, and we've said many times, if you've been on webinars with me through the years, that the purchasing power of the world is outside the US, and that if we are not doing global business, I can guarantee you that our competitors are coming to the US to take advantage of the United States market. So as competitors are increasing their global market share, we must compete with them. And we believe that the colleagues here today and the tools that you see as a part of this webinar will give you a leg up and an assistance that you can expand your sales globally. So we hope to be a part of that. Andrew mentioned in the opening comments that he made about the opportunity that avails us. So we see from the slide that with only 12% of the US GDP generated by exports, there's a lot of room for growth. I echo those sentiments and those comments. You can see these other major trading partners like Germany, like Korea, like China, like the UK, how much of their GDP is spent on exporting. So it's important, and we hope that you will feel the same way today. I always say international trade and exporting is a contact sport, and we want to help you do just exactly that. Our role is to be your global business partner. We are an agency of the U.S. Department of Commerce. We are the lead federal agency for export promotion and for the advancement of U.S. commercial interests abroad. And we focus on what we call SMEs, that's jargon for small business. There's around 1,500 of us globally, and we have offices in 94 to 95% of the export markets, 80 plus countries, 130 plus cities, from Argentina to Zimbabwe. We do know the territory, and we want to help you go global. So what do we do to do just exactly that? Well, I have just a couple minutes to tell you that, and I've abridged or abbreviated our message. But basically, we run the gamut from soup to nuts in the export process, trying to help you expand. And initially, we can do things like our initial market check, which can give you an analysis of the market you're considering. So we speak to our embassy overseas. We talk to them about where consideration for your market, say it's in Mexico, say it's in Canada, for example, next door neighbors, and they can give us a market assessment of what we think the receptivity of that market would be to your product. If it goes further and you say, Mark, we already know, in fact, that we want to do business in Sweden, or pick a country, Spain. We have a matchmaking program called our Gold Key Matchmaking program, where we identify the most qualified buyers and partners. They're pre-screened, pre-qualified for you. It's probably our signature program, and it's been in existence since the 80s, so it's been around a long time. And where we have a U.S. embassy, anywhere we have a U.S. embassy, we can typically help you find a partner. So this is really important. We then, of course, move on from helping you find that partner to helping you get paid. And so we have our colleagues who will be on the DS later and a part of this webinar talking about financing options for your exports. So getting paid is an important part of it, and they will give you tools, tricks of how to make that happen. Another thing that we do is payment issues, customs clearance, export licensing. We've done webinars on some of these topics, but we help you with the process of how do you get paid? How do you clear customs? We have a regulatory constraint. We have done, as part of the District Export Council and also part of my office, a number of webinars on the CE mark and USMCA and other things that have a regulatory base. And so we look and hope that you look to us as to be a support for your interest in these markets. And if there are regulatory concerns like export licensing, BIS, ITAR, things like this, any of these regulatory market entry hurdles that we have discussed on this page, those are the type of things we do. So we believe that the world is open for your business. We want to use our tools and our people on the ground. I tell people all the time when I'm speaking to them, we have representatives in these markets. Let us help you. We are connected to these U.S. embassies. We have people on the ground whose sole job is to help you find a partner, agent, distributor in these markets, help you learn about how to do business in these places. It's really important to know that you don't have to be a giant company the size of General Motors to succeed globally. And with the tools that we have available to you, and to note that we are local here to you. I'm in Indiana, I'm a Hoosier, and me and my staff as well, which we'll list on the next slide, are here to be a support to you as you expand globally. So we hope that you will see that there are a lot of tools available to you. You'll see on this slide here, we have obviously state and local partners, federal partners as well, that are on this webinar, and we all cover the entire gamut of the export process and also the state of Indiana. I'm the director of the office. I have two colleagues that joined on the webinar today, Eric Hunt, which handles Southern Indiana and is our regulatory expert, Scott Lindsay, who also works for me, and he handles Northern Indiana. So we cover the entire state in working with coordination and cooperation with our partners to make sure that there's a seamless export service delivery to you. So that's what we do. That's our message, and our goal today is to help you be more effective and competitive globally. We want to help your company compete and win in the global marketplace. We appreciate the opportunity to speak with you today. And now I turn the microphone over to my friend and colleague, Romy from SBA, who will discuss their programs. So I'm going to get out of this slideshow, I hope. Try to do that. I believe I've stopped sharing, Romy.
All right, and hopefully my presentation is up now.
We can see it.
Awesome.
But you're not in presentation mode.
I am not in I'm sorry?
You're not in presentation mode. You're in
Which
slide mode.
Oh, got it.
Yeah.
There. Can you see that?
Give it a second. We can see it. It's still in slide mode, but it's okay. We can still see it fine.
If I may,
Oh,
Romy, if I may,
technology.
you can go under slideshow. Under the drop down, you should be able to start the presentation over. View from beginning on the far left.
Right there. Yep.
I did that, but it's showing up on my other screen is the problem.
Well, Yeah, that's okay. We've still got it. No worries.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to be brief anyway. So, thank you to Department of Commerce, Mark, and IDEC for having SBA as part of this presentation. SBA plays, no, my name's Romy Ancog. I'm in the lead export finance manager, Office of International Trade. So, my office, there's two sides to us, the STEP grant, which Roger, explained very well. The other side of it is export trade finance. So one of the issues that small businesses have, I mean, just in general, getting working capital is, the funding you need to run the business is always an obstacle for small businesses, and that is exacerbated when you start talking about dealing internationally and working with exports. The longer time frames, the greater uncertainty, dealing in other currencies, other legal systems, all of that creates risk. That makes it harder for your banks and credit unions, lenders that provide these kinds of loans, makes it harder for them to get you the capital you need. Exporters, there's a wide range of things that they need, starting with, just straight up contract fulfillment. You get large orders, you don't have the working capital to fulfill them. Funding trade shows, export development, growing your inventory, carrying foreign accounts receivable, growing the business, just getting, growing your facilities and getting the equipment you need, and standby letters of credit, which is kind of a unique thing for international trade. These are all these are the needs that we find exporters and small businesses run into. So in a nutshell, SBA, we have, our role in all of this, you're going to be hearing from a lot of different resources that have fantastic tools. SBA plays a small but targeted critical role in helping businesses get the capital they need to grow international sales. I manage a number of specific loan programs. They go up to $5 million, as small as you need them to be. They are very flexible. They can do a wide variety of things for, all the things that we talked about in terms of providing working capital for contract fulfillment, to helping you grow your physical plant, refinance debt, buy equipment, increase your inventory, hire staff, all of those needs. The SBA, we're not the actual lenders in any of this. We work with your bank and your credit unions to help them make more loans to more small businesses. I don't want to get too technical with, with all of these. We offer, the way we work is we offer the banks a guarantee, kind of an insurance policy against loss. And for our for our export programs, we offer the largest guarantee SBA has, in non-disaster times, a 90% guarantee. So that's a lot of incentive for your banks to work with us and to help you get get your funding. So again, I don't want to get too technical. I want everybody to just be aware. I cover all of Indiana, Michigan, and Northern Ohio, but I'm one person, and I can't do all of this without a lot of assistance from my partners at the Indiana district office. So let me introduce my partner in SBA, Eric Armacost. He's the lead lender relations specialist at the Indiana office. Eric, as I try to get out of presentation mode. Got it.
Hey, Romy, thanks very much. And thanks everybody for being here this afternoon. We know that everybody on this meeting has a busy schedule, so I appreciate you making the investment of time. I think you'll find it to be a good investment of time. As Romy mentioned, my name is Eric Armacost. I'm the lead lender relations specialist and district international trade officer for the Indiana District Office of the United States Small Business Administration. And it's my pleasure to work not only with Romy, but with the portfolio of experts that are on this panel today. So the SBA, the United States Small Business Administration, is a cabinet level agency of the federal government that was established in 1953 to help small businesses start, grow, expand, and recover. So we're here today to talk about export and supporting the export activities of small businesses. And we're going to stay focused on that today. But I want you to be aware that there are a number of services that the SBA offers outside of supporting export activities. So, specifically, we can support, small businesses that are seeking contracts with the federal government or access to capital, or maybe you have a question about, operating your business more efficiently that's not directly related to export. Well, it so happens that the SBA supports a network of experts that can provide counseling for free to small businesses that are seeking assistance. So I say all that to say this. I'm going to post my contact information in the chat, and I will answer any questions you might have today if I can answer them briefly. If I can, if it's a more involved conversation, I'd ask you to reach out to me directly, and then we'll talk outside of this meeting. Again, thanks very much for your time this afternoon. It's now my pleasure to introduce my colleague from the Export-Import Bank of the United States, Ursula. And I'm not going to try the last name, so I apologize, Ursula, but as I get to know you better, I'm sure I'll learn how to pronounce it properly.
All good, Eric. Thank you so much for the introduction. I like to be known as Ursula, the trade finance share, basically. So thank you so much for everyone for joining today and for having Ex-Im Bank. My name is Ursula Vancinovic. I am based in the Chicago office of Ex-Im Bank, and I actually have a colleague with me that I'll ask to turn on the camera maybe at the end, Mariela Wasanga, who just joined Ex-Im Bank earlier this week. And she will be working, she'll be based in Detroit and also working with companies in Northern Indiana. So for those of you who are on the line, and I know there are a lot of familiar names, just a really quick introduction in terms of who Ex-Im Bank is. Very narrow and the focus and very our focus is really on working with US-based companies and making sure that you have the tools that you need to be competitive from a financing standpoint. So similar to the SBA, we offer some support from a working capital standpoint, but really what I'm going to focus on today is our direct relationship and how we work with US exporters to make sure that when you're selling internationally your product or your service, that you're able to offer competitive open account terms to your customers overseas. So when it comes to selling internationally, of course, we have a lot of different choices in terms of how we get paid. And of course, in the Midwest, we often hear that cash in advance or cash in fist, CIF being the payment / Incoterm, is a preferred method. And of course, if you're in a market where you can demand that cash in advance, we fully support it. That being said, we just want to maybe challenge you about the fact that cash in advance isn't all that it's cracked up to be. Of course, there's no working capital typically needed when you have an international order necessary to raise as you're getting paid prior to shipment. But I guess what we would push back on for a lot of US exporters is that particularly if you're selling to a distributor type of a relationship, if you're asking for cash in advance terms, you may be losing out on sales. I guess that would be the biggest risk that you're either losing out on the opportunity altogether, or maybe your customer isn't able to place as large of an order that they'd like to because they have constraints from their own standpoint, from a cash standpoint. So we're going to talk about solutions in terms of being able to offer, open account terms, but yet be protected. Of course, letters of credit are a very useful tool to many companies, and one that particularly for companies that do customization in their products, or have very long lead times, could be a very useful tool. But again, for those repeat ongoing sales, it could be prohibitive to ask for a letter of credit depending on where your customer also is located. were just on a call with the commercial service in Argentina. Inflation is 90%. So there being that other markets have much higher inflation rates than we do. And so if you're asking your customer to
Ursula, you might want to turn your camera off because we're having trouble hearing you.
essentially put up their funds with their commercial bank to there's a cash inside, and again, is that limiting sales. Of course, open account terms are fantastic from an importer's on or off. Sorry. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. It's just your camera was making it lag. I don't know what from your end.
Okay, so it's better now?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, so just continuing on here, as far as open account sales, I was saying great from a importer's perspective, maybe not necessarily great from the exporter's perspective. And so my transition to how do you offer open account terms, but protects yourself against non-payment? And what we offer is essentially invoice insurance. And so these are one of the products that Exit Bank offers and what we have time to discuss here. But essentially what we're doing is issuing an insurance policy to you, the exporter, if you are going to sell on open account terms to a customer overseas. The whole purpose of this insurance is to give you the ability to offer terms, but help you sleep at night knowing that if your customer isn't able to pay you back, you do have a secondary source of repayment to help you collect. The other benefit of the insurance is that when you have insurance on a foreign receivable, your commercial bank will now all of a sudden consider that an asset that they can use to extend a larger line of credit to you. So typically foreign accounts receivables are dead assets from a banker's perspective, unless there's insurance wrapped around it. One of them, we can either offer coverage on one-off transactions, all of your exports, or kind of anywhere in between. So there are different varieties that we don't have necessarily time to go through today. What exactly is the insurance covering? It's really covering you, protecting you against non-payment for either a commercial reason or a political reason. A political reason is really any action on the part of the foreign government that would prevent your customer from paying you, whether that's war, a revolution, insurrection, maybe there are currency restrictions in place, as there are currently in Argentina and other markets as well. Commercial would be any action on the part of really the customer directly. So maybe they run into cash flow issues or they go into bankruptcy. And I'll say that 90+% of the time, we see claims filed for exactly that, cash flow issues. Let's say you sell it to a distributor, they are reselling to an end user, that end user doesn't pay them. Oftentimes the customer isn't able to pay you back as their supplier. So these are the types of coverages that we offer. That's the whole purpose of this insurance, is to protect you for any of those reasons. The one, kind of elephant in the room is that we don't cover disputes. So if you sell a green widget and you were supposed to ship a red widget, that is something that of course you and your customer need to work out directly. So the last kind of thing, and because I know we're limited on time here, is we want you, when you're meeting with prospective customers, either in person, on Teams, or whatever the situation might be, to be open and attentive to your customers, which of course many of you are. So if your standard payment terms are cash advance or letter of credit, or maybe there's a series of down payments that you take, and then maybe you do 10 or 20% after shipment, whatever the case might be, go ahead and present those normal sort of standard payment terms that you offer. Our advice is watch and listen for your customers' reaction to what your standard terms are. Some are pretty bold and will say from the get-go that that isn't going to work. Maybe they're on the other side of the world and their, shipping times have been extraordinarily long, and they're really looking, particularly again, if as a distributor type relationship for you to support them. And so offer your standard terms, but be ready to pivot in case that is pushback, you get pushback from your customer. And if you have to pivot and offer credit, you want to be able to put it in the customer's court right away and say, okay, we would consider giving you credit. Credit comes at a cost. And so while you don't have necessarily a quote from Ex-Im Bank or what the cost of insurance is, I want you to have in your mind that generally speaking, it's going to cost you anywhere from 0.5% to 1.5% for us at Ex-Im Bank to insure that receivable. And it's a function of the size of your percentage of your invoice. So if you have that kind of ballpark in your head, and also maybe ahead of time figure out what your cost of money is, you can on the spot at least give a ballpark to your customer and say, potentially this is something it would cost. But also you want to have, and I've put in here, and we'll share this presentation, a credit application. So if your customer is asking for credit, if you flip it back to them and say, look, we'll consider giving you credit, but we're going to need some information on your firm. Here's, a credit application for you to fill out for us. And that application is going to ask for references and some, basic information. And we can provide you some guidelines on here's what we would seek in terms of credit information on the customer. So I will wrap it up there, and happy to answer questions at the end. Happy to turn it over to Gabby now Wilcox at the Indiana Small Business Development Center. But really quick before I do that, Marielle, if I can have you turn on your camera and just say hi to everybody. Sorry, Gabby, I don't mean to take your time, but just want everyone to have a face and the name with Marielle. Marielle, you're on mute.
All right. Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Marielle Wasangan, a new director, regional director. The Central Region will be based in Detroit, and we'll be covering Northern Indiana, like Ursula said. I'm very happy to get to meet you all in person soon. In the meantime, I will leave my contact information on the chat. If you have any questions or need my assistance, please feel free to reach out. Thank you.
Thank you. Gabby, it's all you.
Thank you. I will work on getting my screen share up and ready here. Can everyone see my screen?
We can.
Yes.
Yes.
Beautiful. Thank you for confirming. Well, like Ursula said, my name is Gabby Wilcox, and I'm the programs manager for the Indiana Small Business Development Center. For this brief presentation, I might be referring to our organization as the SBDC, as we're commonly referred to as. And we are the support system for economic development for small businesses across the state. We do serve all 92 counties. Many of you may or may not know that 99.4% of businesses are considered small businesses. And Roger alluded to this earlier with the SBA standard requirements for what is constituted as a small business. And truly, while yes, this does depend on industry, it's important to note that small businesses, again, depending on your industry, can be anywhere from 1 to 1,500 employees. It can also range in salary or revenue ranges upwards of 25 million. So truly what constitutes as a small business is very dependent and flexible, and often is beyond what most people would consider as a small business. Let's see. There we go. Briefly covering what the services that the SBDC offers. They provide no-cost advising and training services for any small business across the state. And truly, this is a quick signature on a form that just indicates that that any information that you provide to our organization will be held with confidentiality. And that is the process for becoming a client of the SBDC. It's truly as simple as that. And we meet you where you are at. So a business advisor, not myself, we'll sit down with you and truly talk through whatever your problems are, whether that's developing your business plan or strategizing a pivot given current market conditions, financial packaging, lending assistance, market research. As we look towards today's call with the export market, what does it look like trying to go into a different niche, a different area of the world? And that's where great people, and on this network call, but also Andrew Ranke, he is our paid advisor for offering export services across the state. So you're getting a really great value add service at no cost to your business. Now, this slide here indicates that yes, we do offer this no cost advising and training, and that's truly from the ideation stage all the way through the transition and the succession planning of your business. Now, today I'll be talking about a program that we offer. It's our annual program. I guess first I should indicate that we do cover all 92 counties, and that is broken up into 10 regional locations. The purpose of that is to connect you with resources directly in your neck of the woods, but then also that these regions funnel up to the state and federal resources that you're hearing about on this call here today. So truly, we try to showcase that our entrepreneurial ecosystem is very well connected to assist your businesses wherever you're at in the process. Now, today discussing the Export Indiana Accelerator Program, or EIAP. This is a 12-week, no-cost annual program to assist businesses in creating an executable export business plan. So participants of this program will receive professional export guidance in these specific areas: evaluations on export readiness, market research and identification, market penetration techniques, compliance, your strategy, and then again, also connecting you to the state and federal export resources that are available to you. I want to particularly call out that for EIAP, this is not a program for those that have, it's not just a program for those that have no idea what exporting is, or for some of you who have some idea of exporting and want to get involved. Truly, this is open to anyone that's looking to export, with the understanding that there are some requirements for the program. And those include, you must become a client of the SBDC. And again, that's a quick signature on a form just confirming that confidentiality is held. It's committing to participate in the entire program. It is an intensive program, but it's organized in such so that you truly get the value. You get a very tangible plan at the end of this program that you can take to market and actually grow your business with. So that involves a commitment of 2 to 4 hours per week for 12 consecutive weeks. You must attend the 3 required cohort meetings. This includes the kickoff call, the resource partner call, and then the exit presentations that are done in person. And you must not have previously participated in the program. To further continue the application timeline, the application opened last week on January 9th and will remain open through March 17th. We're looking for applicants to be notified in April, and then the program will kick off May 15th and run consecutively through August 9th. I think that's the end of my presentation, but again, I do want to iterate the fact that this is a program that's offered and available to anybody regardless of where you're at in the export process. Again, this is best suited for a lot of those that already have some understanding and are looking to dig in deeper and have the time and resources to commit to this. I believe that's everything I have today. I'll go ahead and drop my information in the chat box, but without further ado, I'll introduce Teresa from the Indiana University Cyber to take it away next.
All right, let me go ahead and put my slides on. I think that's about to come off. All right, well, thank you so much, Gabby. I'm Teresa Crafton, Program Manager at IU Cyber. And Christine Everett, whom some of you may have already worked with, is the Program Director of IU Cyber and my boss. If you're new here, you may be wondering what cyber is and think that we have something to do with cybersecurity. We don't. Cyber is short for Center for International Business Education and Research, and there are 15 regional cybers across the U.S. We're each funded by the Department of Education and with the goal of promoting international understanding and competitiveness. Our center is located on the IU Bloomington campus, and we fund a variety of initiatives to help Indiana businesses like yours to compete successfully in the global marketplace. And there's 4 of these initiatives that I wanted to briefly talk about today. Our first initiative is the Export Indiana Accelerator, which you just heard Gabby talk about. We're a resource partner and we support that program. So if you've been accepted into the accelerator, we can assist with funding for an intern to help you with the process. We'll provide up to 50% of the wages of that intern with a maximum of $4,000. Our second initiative is the regular internship support program. So even if you're not going through the accelerator and you decide you need an intern, either to help you get started with exporting, whether it's to do some research or to help you with another part of the process, we can give you up to 50% of the wages of that intern with a maximum of $3,000. And then we have a third initiative, and that's the Exportech program. And this is a program at Purdue run by Joe McMurray. And Joe's actually in on the call today. And this is a program similar to the Export Indiana Accelerator, and it runs during the academic year. As a partner with this program, we can help offset the costs for businesses that would like to participate in it. And I have Joe's email on the slide, but he should also be adding his contact info into the chat. Then the final initiative is the SME International Experience. So if there's an international trade show or some other type of event that you would like to attend, we can provide funding up to $4,000 to offset the travel expenses. And the event doesn't necessarily have to be in another country. It can be domestic, but as long as it has an international focus, it would qualify. So if you have any questions about anything I've talked about today, please don't hesitate to send us a message at cyber@indiana.edu. I'm also going to put my contact information into the chat, and we really do look forward to working with you. At this point, I'm going to hand it back to Andrew Reinke.
Thank you, Teresa, and thank you to all of our presenters. We've got about 10 minutes left. We may go a little bit over because we want to have an amount of time for Q&A that Mark Hooper will be emceeing for us. But before we go in the Q&A, I did want to bring to the attention, because the companies that are joining us, several are from Indiana's agribusiness sector, and Indiana's agribusiness sector ranks 8th in the country for export. So it's substantive. And I wanted to take a moment to introduce Drew Sherman, just to say hello and put a face with that contact. So Drew, if you don't mind turning on your camera and saying who you are. We didn't have enough time to have Drew on the call today to give a presentation, but we did have him give a presentation 2 months ago when we focused on agribusiness. So Drew, do you have a minute to pop up and say hello?
Absolutely, yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes, we
All
can.
right. Well, thanks for the introduction, Andy. I'm happy to see some familiar faces and names on the call today. As you mentioned, I am the International Trade Director at the Indiana State Department of Agriculture. And as part of the Economic Development Division here, my role is focused on agricultural exports and international sales as a channel to grow Hoosier businesses. So we provide support to agribusinesses in a number of ways, and a lot of these overlap with areas that you've already heard about on this call, including INSTEP and the ISBDC providing individualized agriculture and export advising services. We can also help with education and providing access to leading market research on trends in global trade. We can help agribusinesses identify trade shows and industry events that make sense for them, including trade missions hosted by the U.S. Department of Agriculture. Really, we're just another player in this export game, but with an emphasis and a focus on supporting agribusinesses along the entire value chain. So commodity level, value added manufacturing, all the way to consumer ready food and beverages. So we're just another player in this game, and happy to be able to be on this call. I will put my contact information in the chat as well, but happy to carry any conversations or questions that the folks may have. But Andy, I'll turn it back to you.
Okay, thank you, Drew. Thank you for doing that. And Mark, it's over to you to manage and MC us through the question and answer period. And again, for all of you listening, at the end of today, I'd like to share with you all our new District Export Council website. So it's indianadec.org. But Mark, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Andrew. And I think we've had a lot of great presentations. There's a lot of content here. So what's the shorthand? As people are thinking of questions they might like to ask our panelists, I think the shorthand is come to us, come to me. I can funnel your request or your question or your need to the appropriate person who could help you, whether it's market entry, whether it's developing an export plan, whether you have a product that is a a commercial good, a manufactured good, an agricultural good, if you need financing either from Ex-Im Bank or SBA, if you need support with interns, if you need financing to support your travel, your trip, your booth, we have all these resources here. So you've heard about a little bit about all of that today. So we hope that's been useful to you, but we want to open it up just for just a minute or two. If someone had a burning question to our panelists, I'm looking in the chat if you want to do it that way, or you can raise your hand if you're familiar with that type of methodology. So we'll open the floor right now for just a 30 seconds or so if you have a question for any of our panelists.
Mark, I've got a question.
Okay.
I think Teresa and Gabby mentioned two great programs to help companies craft an export development strategy. One is Export Tech, and that's through Joe McMurray at Purdue, and the other is the Export Accelerator through the ISBDC. And the way I understand it, Export Tech is run during the calendar year, and there's a hard start and stop for the Export Accelerator, which begins in May. Gabby and Teresa, since that program begins in May, and the application is posted, if companies want to find out about that, since it's 4 months away, I would imagine they should do so in earnest, especially if they want to hire an intern, since those interns are being interviewed for jobs now. Do either of you have anything to say about that? It would now be a good time to start looking into it. And I think we're going to have a Q&A session at some point for the accelerator.
I just want to say, Andrew, you were exactly right. Yes, if you have any interest in getting an intern, yes, do not wait, because these are not just interns coming from IU. We'll get them, we can tap them from other places too. However, they get committed. The good interns go quickly. So we want to make sure that you get the best intern you can possibly get. So yes, let us know if you are interested in that. We can help you get an intern, or you may even have in your mind somebody that you want to hire. That's how it works too. So yes.
And Teresa, can you correct me if I'm wrong here? A lot of the interns, they are MBA students, correct?
Yes, I think so.
They have, yes, they run the gamut from undergraduate to MBA students. So it's a wide range. Some of them are from foreign countries. So it's great to start early in that process, but it's a good resource.
So EIP, through the relationship with IU Cyber, for example, and with Andrew's facilitation of the program in general, it's a great connectivity resource for workforce development as a whole as well, right? So we get these interns critical experience, and the business owners get to reap the benefits of having someone in-house that can truly focus on this. Now, I do want to point out that it's not always best served to send your intern through the entire EIAP program without having a representative from the business taking part as well. Now, it can help with the intern doing some of the research and some of that side of things. But again, having the business engaged through this process helps alleviate some of those concerns or questions later down the line. Andrew, do you want to speak towards any of that you've seen?
I think it really the best advice that I have is, if you have questions regarding the accelerator, send me an email, or more importantly, send Gabby an email. But I think we've had some success through both Export Tech and the accelerator, measurable impacts from both of those programs. I think one company that went through the program earlier this year received Export of the Year award for the state of Indiana and for the Great Lakes region. So, and all of the people that are participating, Ex-Im, SBA, MARC, IU Cyber, ISBDC, all support both programs and are substantive players in that. So I look forward to hearing from those that are interested in those programs.
And lastly,
Please
I'll
be
point
sure.
out. Oh, sorry, Mark. I just wanted to point out quickly that we will be hosting a Q&A session in the upcoming weeks to months to try to figure out, month I should say, to talk through kind of the EIP program. So if you're interested, we will be pushing that on our social media networks on LinkedIn under Indiana SBDC. And I can drop that in the chat, but we'll also be sharing it with our partners here on the call for further amplification.
Great. Well, I know we want to be respectful of everyone's time. Look at the chat. There's some good intel in the chat. It's also some good knowledge from some folks. We want to give Andy just a moment to share the DEC webpage because I think it's exciting and it's really a testament to a lot of hard work from some folks. So Andrew, take it away.
Thank you, Mark. Can you see my screen?
We can.
Great. Okay. This was a labor of love, people. This took some time to do. This is the Indiana DEC's website, indianadec.org. Starts off with this downtown of Indianapolis, goes to the next city, Fort Wayne, Evansville, and South Bend. Just some nice shots offered by our chambers of commerce throughout the state. Real briefly, I want to take you quickly here because I know some of you may be leaving us. Here's the contact form. If you would like to receive information going forward on upcoming DEC programs, please submit your information here. Not only will it help us connect with you better, but it lists and asks for what industry you're involved with. It asks what countries you're involved with. If you're a manufacturer, from a distributor, and what this will allow us to do if there's a trade mission going to a particular area of the state or a particular area of the world, either a state or federal trade mission, we can alert you to that if it's in your industry or if it's of an area of interest to you. So please complete this. We don't send out a lot of emails, maybe 1 or 2 a month. So it's not a great. You won't be flooded with emails. Here is information, market research, much of the information that Mark mentioned, market intelligence, top global market reports, country guides are here. Training, our export webinars will be archived here once they're a year old. And it also offers other webinars on exporting. The partners, many of whom were here speaking today. Here's the commercial service, of course. There is foreign agricultural service. And it also includes U.S. Department of Commerce and other federal agencies, SBA, EXIM, Food Export, U.S. Small Business Administration. Also on the state side, the Indiana SBDC. And there's the link to the Export Accelerator here. Same thing for Indiana State Department of Agriculture, Drew's agency, Rogers Agency, Indiana State Trade, the IEDC, Purdue University. This is where you can find the portal to Export Tech, right there. And we also list country-specific trade organizations, the America-China Society of Indiana, the Indiana-Germany Business Council, Indiana-India Business Council, and Japan-America Society of Indiana. And here's where you'll find future events. Next up is March 16th, cybersecurity from shop floor to board room. Next in March 16th. May 4th, we'll be doing a Doing Business in Africa seminar, 11:30 to 6 p.m. in person at the Hotel Carmichael in Carmel, Indiana. And July 20th, it will be update on China, and November 16th, trade with Japan webinar with Japan American Society, JETRO, and U.S. Foreign Commercial Service, Tokyo.
Thank you, Andy. That is great. I mean, it's a good overview. The DEC website is dynamic. It's exciting. It has a lot of information on there. We hope all our attendees will take advantage of that and avail themselves all of these resources, these tools, and these opportunities to expand globally. We want to say thank you to everyone today for joining us. Thank you to all our presenters for taking time to share your knowledge and experience. If folks have questions, reach out to me or Andrew as the chair of the IDEC, and we can direct you and your questions to the appropriate person to help you. So we want to say thanks again for joining with us on another exciting Lunch and Learn. And we hope you, if you didn't lunch much, maybe you learned a bit. So that's our hope. And we'll ask Andy, is there anything else before we sign off?
No, I just wanted to again say thank you to all the presenters. There was a lot of information, but again, contact us if you have questions. Let's grow those exports, everyone. And just as importantly, Happy New Year.
Thanks again to all. We'll sign off for now. Goodbye.